The consumerist pagan holiday sale rolls on at commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. 85% off the entire Bandcamp collection, every Common Filth Extra to date, every Common Filth Radio Best of collection, every Tumblerista's Raw video collection. All stickers are $1.50 plus shipping and handling. International shipping is available. Common Filth Extra episode 49 is all new this week. I talk about a devil westerner complaining about homophobia in Japan. I also talk about the Rockefeller connection to women's liberation. It is all very fascinating. In order for trends to get any sort of mainstream media attention or media attention in general, trends have to become very, very prevalent among the culture, the common people. Until the last couple of years, I had never heard the word polyamory. And then it started showing up in the headlines of my daily news crawl. Reading the headlines, looking at the news. Once it starts getting that mainstream attention, you know that this is a shared experience among at least 100 people. You know, the 100 monkeys effect, you know all about that. I don't have to tell you about that, but that's what it is. Say it doesn't have to be 100, but it has to be a threshold of people who have the shared experience of intellectual cheating, basically. Because that's what I thought it was. Like, I heard the word cheating. You're cheating on me. You're cheating on her. You're cheating on him. All right, daytime television taught me all about that when I was a kid. Except that when I was a kid, they portrayed it as a betrayal, which it is. And now they're portraying it as, oh, it's consensual, therefore it's fine. Even though your body, every cell in your body, all of the neurons in your body are telling you that this is a betrayal. And it's only high IQ people that can put aside these instincts and rationalize their own betrayal as a good thing. That's why I call them rationalization points, rationalization quotient. Because that's really what it is. It's the NPR set who seeks to intellectualize every depraved thing there is out there. So it takes a lot of people doing the same thing, forming that perverse shared experience in order for it to become acceptable. Once it reaches a certain threshold, whatever it may be, 10, 20, 100, 1,000, whatever number it may be, there is a threshold of people. A number of people that have this same shared experience, shameful shared experience, in order for them to talk about it and be like, yeah, my experiences with it were like this. Look at how many people go on NPR, and this is on my mind because I've been listening to them a lot while I'm driving. I'm going to talk about what I heard this morning while I was waiting at the airport. My goodness. But take the transgender children thing, which is now on the cover of National Geographic. Everybody's been showing it to me. I've read stories, so many stories on this program about these white women ruining the lives of their children before those lives really got started. And you have all the people going on Fresh Air. I was raised trans. My parents knew that I was different, so they let me be different. And this doesn't happen in isolation. There are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who encourage this behavior, who identify with it. This deleterious shit that people decide to embark on. Alarming number of people. And think about not the people who become trans or whatever, but the people around them who are like, yeah, that's fine, or I don't care, as long as blank. As long as you're just nonchalant about it. It's like I see these comics like, this is okay. This is not okay. And the this is not okay thing is like, oh, I'm a demisexual, pangender, bottom, pause pit. You know, it's always like the most ridiculous behavior, but then they say this is okay. And they're like, oh, I just want the opposite genitals that I have. No big deal. As if how committed they are to it. How nonchalant or not they are about it is the problem. See, this is proof of what I have said for so long. People listen to how something is said rather than what is said. You can get people to agree to basically anything, as long as you're nice about it, as long as you're cool about it, as long as you have a sense of humor about it, because people are that dumb. And that's what we need to stop being, that dumb. We need to look at what is said, not how something is said. I don't care how cool you are about it. Fucking chopping off your cock and balls or turning your vagina into something ridiculous. I don't care how nonchalant or whatever about it you are. That's abominable. Like there has to be some severely fucked up things going on within you in order for you to want to pursue that. I don't care how you cover up for it with jokes and whatever. Or nowadays it's right-wing politics. I can earn these people's favor just as long as I say nice things about white people. Back to the polyamory thing. I had no idea this word even existed. Again, I thought it was just, when somebody's screwing around on somebody, that was cheating. But then it started popping up in my daily news readings. Which is, when I started, sometime around that point, I started doing this. And through these two things, the transgender bullshit, the polyamory thing, we see the 100th monkey effect taking place. So people out there have really fucked up shared experiences. Guarantee you, go to any major city in America, which I don't do. I stay out of those as often as I can because something bad's gonna happen to it. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be sojourning in Sodom while the meteors come down. And this is amusing. Oh, the Skeptic's Dictionary, 100th monkey phenomenon. The Skeptic's Dictionary. What is this? A collection of strange beliefs, amusing deceptions, and dangerous delusions. Every time somebody says that they're skeptical of something, and they identify themselves as a skeptic, any idea they're skeptical of, there's probably some truth to it. And not just some, like a lot. I'm like a skeptic? I'm a skeptic. I'm skeptic of your hygiene practices. But back to the big city thing and how this ties in with what I'm talking about. Go to your big city, observe the young professionals on their lunch breaks, see a group of them, see them alone, whatever. Chances are they probably had a phase when they look back on it and confess what they did during that phase. They'll tell you, well, polyamory didn't work out for me, but I know a lot of people who do. I know a lot of people who are very happy and fulfilled doing it. And that's how it makes it into Cosmopolitan. That's how it makes it into Vice. Because they think they're alone in their experiences. They're not. They talk about it. They get a buzz from the shared experience. They get a buzz from the socialization. They think that equals good. That betrayal equals good. They no longer feel shame, and they tell the world about it. And other people they're very pleasure-oriented. Aspiring urbanites and normal people all over, they read about it and they're like, I'd like to try this. This seemed like a bad idea before, but now it seems like a good idea. And on and on and on it goes until they're all dying of super syphilis, which will hopefully happen sooner rather than later, but whatever pace at which it occurs, super syphilis will happen. And God sent it. Ignore urbanite orders, and ignore the hicks who want to emulate them. So I was at the airport waiting in the visitor's lot. I was listening to NPR Weekend Edition, and the beta male host, the limp-wristed beta male host, was interviewing some British woman. And just by saying that, if you've been listening for a while, you know where this is going. Well, I could just say British, Anglo, you know where it's going. And there's this woman, she wrote a book, whatever, she's talking about recipes, English food, holiday traditions. Throughout the interview, she reveals that she is a lesbian, and her partner's a New York Jew. And here the host is, playing it off like it's completely normal. Like, oh, just two ladies dyking off with each other. No big deal, right? And all the middle class drones who listen to NPR, who listen to it with their kids in the car, are probably like, yeah. We should listen to a lesbian whose life partner is a New York Jew. We should listen to her about what holiday traditions should be. but you know, when our major holiday is pagan consumerist pagan holiday, everything's negotiable, right? Nothing is not for sale. Nothing is not up for negotiation. And then she said that she was adopted by a Pentecostal pastor and his wife, and they wanted a missionary. And then she's like, well, I'm a missionary. I can't do this anymore. But yeah, she's like, oh, I'm not a missionary for Jesus, but I am for art and whatever. I'm just like, I don't think there's a word in the cursed language that is the English language that could express the amount of disgust I felt at that moment. The complete toxicity of white liberal culture. And they pretend like they're all hermetically sealed and sophisticated, and people believe the lie. Which is funny, during their weekday news hours, they're always bitching about white nationalism and, ooh, those evil racists, not realizing that those evil racists are 19-year-old community college students with a hefty transsexual cam whore budget. And they'll tell you that transsexuals aren't gay, they have very feminine penises. Alright, once you factor those people in who are in denial about their complete and utter sodomite tendencies, shall we say, those people are why white people are only 1% less gay, ostensibly, in the polls. But once you factor in those people, because, look, I'm on the pulse of culture here. I'm on the pulse of human behavior. I see it, the unfiltered white id for what it is, every day on social media, every day in the news, and I'm the only one putting it into its correct context. You are going to hear this kind of commentary nowhere else. But NPR, white nationalism, this, far-right groups, You people are retarded. They don't want to change the status quo. These people demand nothing out of their own. And the ones who do, well, they're done away with pretty quickly. They think you can act like the National Public Radio retard, oblivious to the disturbing psychological underpinnings of what present-day culture values the most. They report on stories of transgender children with the most sunny disposition you could muster. And they don't think to themselves, this seems pretty fucked up. Let's take a look behind the curtain here. See what's really going on. Let's see how this machinery's really operating. I don't want a homeland for my people if my people continue on like this unabated. I don't give a fuck about demographic displacement if the present demographic is continuing on in this way. Promoting everything evil as good, everything good as evil. Liberalism and all it values is a mental disorder. And those who try their damnedest to conserve the previous iterations of liberalism, conservatives, they too are mentally ill. Just look at the prevalence of homosexuals within the GOP. Peter Thiel, 2024! I have a couple of points that I'm trying to making, but I don't know, I put them in such a pattern so that people will listen so they could hear the conclusions I have for each of them. But the conclusion for this train of thought that I'm having about the NPR set is you are listening to the weak men and women who create hard times. It's really just weak men because women get away with what we allow them to get away with. And we let them get away with literal murder. But regardless of ethnic composition, regardless of genetic circumstance, what the most common set of genetic circumstances are within your arbitrarily defined set of borders, you reach that threshold of spineless, effeminate white liberals in your society, you're not going to have one. You're going to have what we have now. You're going to have a doddering old fool nodding and smiling to every word some shriveled up British hag has to say about holiday traditions. You have a doddering old fool smiling and nodding upon every word a golden retriever girl speaks about her transgender child. So I say flood the cities with Somalians. Flood them with Section 8 housing recipients. They deserve it. From thesun.co.uk, my favorite British rag. The real life of the beach. Meet the rainbow people who get naked and express their love for each other at raunchy festivals. Now, what have we said about love? Like, what is that, filthy Anglo newspeak for? That's right. Come! Photographer Dennis Vejas traveled to rainbow gatherings across Mexico, Guatemala, Russia, and Morocco. Remember the cult movie thriller, The Beach? The adventure drama followed a thrill-seeking Leonardo DiCaprio as he traveled to a pristine, uninhabited island in Thailand. Well, a spectacular new photo series has captured a group of hippies who look as if they've fallen straight out of Danny Boyle's 2000 classic as they get naked and show each other unconditional love, unconditional cum, at a bizarre, exotic festival. But cum always has a condition. Photographer Denis Vejas, 30, from Lithuania. Of course it's not a Hispanic name. But I'm still going to call him Vejas, because that's the only redeeming part of it, about him. He has a cool name, maybe. You know, if it were. Never mind. Traveled to rainbow gatherings in Mexico, Guatemala, Russia, and Morocco. He captured the free-spirited events which are attended by bohemians who gather in remote places to be at one with nature and away from consumerism. Okay, so they get away from consumerism and then consume each other's dignity. That makes sense. The eye-opening pictures show men and women holding hands in a human circle on a beach, whilst others show naked attendees relaxing in rivers and on banks. Another intimate photo shows a couple in an affectionate embrace, and one female has covered her body with mud. Skipping ahead here. Dennis said, wait, hold on. The beach other image showed the inner peace of rainbow people as they decorate their faces, meditate and smoke drugs together. What did I say about these people and their rationalization points? No, we're seeking meditation and peace of mind away from consumerism. Oh, by the way, we brought the drugs. Dennis said, nomadic and alternative lifestyle, grown, is a big part of my photography, and rainbow gatherings are a big part of nomadic culture, and I felt I needed to document it. Strung out vagrants. You could just go to your local truck stop and find those. Nomads. That's a nice way of saying I am my own problem, and no matter how hard I try, I can't run away from myself. Alright, there's your other translation for the day. Unconditional love is a beautiful social experiment, especially when it is practiced by hundreds of people at the same time. It's like poetry. 100th Monkeys, a mulatto guy and his Aryan girlfriend, sniffing some kind of root. Wait, hold on. It looks like he's smoking a pipe, and he's like blowing the smoke up her nose. Oh no, they did say Morocco, so this guy must be a North African. Maybe some kind of Arab? But yeah, what does this tell you about their prospects back home, the women? His Aryan girlfriend, who's straight from the wheat field, unfortunately, away from the floating Hitler quotes. All that sounds real nice until she realized that she has nothing but disgusting beta male providers who do not excite her in the least. So she goes and she leads a nomadic lifestyle with a Moroccan fella. That's what she found more palatable. Okay. It's an attempt to build a different world without authorities and organizations where you can be absolutely free without the need to explain. And here you are letting a photographer follow you around. He says the festivals attract same-minded people, so there's no shock or judgment. I might be making horrible life decisions right here, but judgment, that's what I fear. They happen in different parts of the world and usually in the outskirts of the countryside, so the only contact with the outside world is some a small local village. He said. Of course, the first one took place in Colorado. In most cases, rainbow people sustain a very friendly relationship with the neighbors, and locals often come to play music by the bonfire or eat together. The first rainbow gathering took place in... Okay, I already read that part. Participants take part in a range of activities, including meditation, dancing, yoga, and playing music. Okay, so it's a bunch of aimless hippies being aimless and, thinking they're connecting with the world, man, while they're on drugs. They still need that filter? Yeah, I'm really finding myself out here distorting reality with drugs. Moron. Why don't you just own up? Own up and say, I don't want to take responsibility for anything in life. I'm going to run away from my problems. But they know they are their own problem, which is why they bring the drugs. So many people trying to escape from themselves. I found this in a YouTube comment thread. It's a comment. I have no idea why they said this. This just goes to show you how much pain they're in. But, and if you want to see this, I did post this to my Twitter, so I'm going to read it, and you could read along if you could find it on there. It says, how much of fucked up is it if I'm emotionally attached to a fictional character? It's just she's so adorable, and it's kind of massaging my fucked up brain and giving it peace. It's just hard to live with a few psychological problems on top of a fucking depression for the last 10 fucking years. To which the first guy who replied to it said, I can relate to this more than I'd like. And then somebody responds by saying, the worst thing you could possibly say to a person in this situation, in this frame of mind, who needs help, not enabling, not encouragement to continue on this path of destruction, this path of self-destruction they're on. This person who's like, I'm in love with the fictional character, says, it's not fucked up at all. TV shows, games, or fictional characters could save lives. It's normal. And now we know why, after years of irrelevance, after years of consumer disinterest, virtual reality is now making a comeback. And this is the kind of mindset that leads to it. This is the kind of mindset that leads to this demand for more escapism. It gets worse. Some guy said, have you ever tried hentai? To which the original poster replied, dude, I'm 23. I watched porn since I was 10. This guy has been watching porn since before he hit puberty. And some retard on Twitter's YouTube fans, I'm not going to name names. They get enough publicity. But this retard conducted a Twitter poll. It was answered by thousands of people. The poll question was, do you think porn is bad for society? 86% said no. 86% of people say that a guy whose life has clearly been derailed by pornography. 86% of people out there say, yeah, this is great. It's great that this industry that is predicated on the scouting of abuse victims, that is predicated on creating just the most depraved shit imaginable, because the people who consume it consume too much of it. They consume it. Oh, that's not good enough anymore. They go on to the next thing. They go on to the next thing. And this is what they are now. Lusting after imaginary people. Or worse. So this guy says, dude, I'm 23. I watched porn since I was 10. There isn't a porn type I haven't watched or fapped to. I'm talking about emotional scars, not lust. And where did those emotional scars come from, you dumb fuck? Watching porn since you're 10 years old, nobody stepped in. Say, it's not a good thing to be doing this. And this guy's living proof of what pornography leads to, and only 14% of people say it's bad for society. And you could say, well, it's just a Twitter poll, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Well, look, it's anonymous. People can say how they really feel. Really, how much lower could the no, porn isn't bad for society answer be? Even if it were scientific. You say, okay, we're going to ban porn, people freak the fuck out. Months ago, I saw a tweet from a guy posted a news article about how Donald Trump signed an anti-porn pledge, which he hasn't said anything about since. And people freaked out about it. People were like, oh, this is what feminists and Mormons want, and that's bad. Like every other campaign promise that dipshit made. He's either walked it back or just ignored it completely or forgotten about it. So I don't know what they're so concerned about, but it raises an interesting question. What would happen if somebody were to seriously banish pornography production from occurring within the United States? What would happen if all the porn site servers were shut down? What would happen? Think about how many millions of people, millions of Americans attend gay pride parades. People can't get enough of their cummies, and they exalt those who pursue it to the fullest extent. Because Americans, Westerners, those infected with Anglo tongues and minds, conflate freedom with cummies. And if you threaten their cummies just a little bit, they'll freak the fuck out. They'll go apoplectic. And the response that Trump received for signing that anti-porn pledge is proof. There's more to this comment thread, by the way. Some guy said to him that lust is a great topic, and scat porn FTW, which I think means for the win if I'm up on my nomenclature. That's an old one from back in the day, so yeah. That's what it means. Here's this guy encouraging people to masturbate to shit. They've jerked themselves off into impotence, and the only thing that can excite them is waste. Is excrement. But if you listen to the average dipshit, nah, this isn't what people are doing. Porn's actually good for society, they say. And then this idiot, I retweeted a post that somebody showed me that California is now paying for sex change surgeries for inmates, for criminals, for society's refuse. You know, the refuse that you could actually put on the books. Yeah, California is now paying for sex change surgeries, which is a preposterous term. You can't change your sex. You can't change your chromosomes. All you can do is lie about them. And then this sodomite, literal sodomite, says, I don't mind that my tax dollars go to prisoners getting medical treatment. Long as they're diagnosed and really trans, I support. And then this same sodomite said that, if they're a Tumblr retard, they don't deserve it. They shouldn't get it. Which proves my assertion that people listen to how something is said rather than what is said. I don't care how good your politics are. I don't care how polite you are. I don't care how whatever. You're still an insane pervert. You are an insane pervert whose mentally ill whims society should dismiss immediately. But we don't, because society is just as sick as you, so they find a kindred spirit with it. Fucking kidding me. I think this idiot's a fucking Brit too, who says, I don't mind that my tax dollars go to prisoners getting medical treatment. As long as they're diagnosed and really trans, I support. So genital mutilation, everybody, is now medical treatment in Anglo fantasy land. Not only is it genital mutilation, not only is it succumbing to the sick, perverse whims of the mentally ill, but it's a criminal pervert. One who is in jail. One who is rightfully removed from society. But wait, there's more. This is taxpayer subsidized. But according to Anglo-Sodomite idiot, it's okay if you're a deranged, mentally ill criminal who is a leech, who is a drain on society. Just as long as you're not a Tumblr idiot, it's fine. Whatever the fuck a Tumblr idiot means. Alright, that stopped being useful fucking years ago, which just goes to show you that sodomites are only interested in culture once that culture is just completely used up and irrelevant. Alright, they thrive off of dead cultures, terms, societies, you name it. Oh, I don't mind as long as they're... What the fuck does Tumblr retard even mean? Oh, what? They have a blog on Tumblr. Big fucking whoop. Who gives a fuck where their blog is hosted? Who gives a fuck how annoying they are on social media? It is a mark of the lowest kind of intelligence to look at style. Merely style. And not content. In other words, how something is said and not what is being said. These creatures who have a penis but see a vagina, or, the other way around, We don't take seriously the visions of a schizophrenic. We don't adjust reality to accommodate the schizophrenic, to create what he's seeing, to accommodate how he's really feeling, because what he's feeling is wrong. It's a delusion. Time to start treating transgenders in the same way. Fucking lower than vomit.
Ooh, let us pay for the transgender surgery for our prisoners. You know, those dangerous people we remove from society. As long as they're not SJWs. Because that's really what the problem is here. They're politics.
Moving on before I blow a gasket. I read this a number of months ago, but I don't think people remembered. I don't think people really understood what this says about the Occident's women. Cosmopolitan.com, what it's really like to let people finger you in public. Quote, when they touch my vagina, I say, you have 30 seconds, you have to look into my eyes, unquote. Milo Moire, or Moire, who gives a shit, a Swiss artist and psychologist, hey, a depraved skank who lets strangers finger bang her in public as a psychologist. Yeah, this is a legitimate field here. It's not just self-diagnosing and rationalizing your whatever trauma you've had in your life. Anyway, has been performing controversial nude public art for years. For years! And look, if you're homophobic in Europe, you have to go to jail. But if you're getting finger banged in public, then you get articles written about you. Fuck, you might even get public money for it. You might get a grant from the Artists Fund or whatever they have. It's a cup of ice. Hold on, I need to take a sip of melted ice water. That's good ice water. But anyway, Milo's been performing controversial nude public art for years. And hopefully, I'll stop myself before I get in trouble. In 2014, she rode a bus naked, painted with the names of clothing items where they are supposed to go on a body. During Art Basel in Switzerland, and stood naked outside an art museum in Cologne, Germany, painting with a white sheet red with paint-filled eggs stashed inside her vagina. Let me repeat that for you. In 2014, she rode a bus naked during Art Basel in Switzerland and stood naked outside an art museum in Cologne, Germany, painting with a white sheet red with paint-filled eggs stashed inside her vagina. Most recently, she paid homage to Valley Export's 1960s nudist work and asked people in London, Dusseldorf, and Amsterdam to touch her breasts and vagina, which were concealed in a large mirrored box with a hole in the middle. She recorded the interactions and released a highly censored but yet still pretty not safe for work video of her being touched. Moire, fucking retard, spoke to Cosmopolitan about what it was like to have strangers finger her, the ground rules she laid for those who did, and why she'd rather not have the performance labeled as a feminist piece of art. Well, who gives a fuck if it's feminist or not? You're a disgusting pig. Really, let's use our facility of reason here. Whether it's feminist or not, is that really the problem? No. But the interview asks this whore, you stood outside naked in Cologne earlier this year as a response to the horrific coordinated attacks, where hundreds of women were sexually assaulted on New Year's Eve. Was there a specific event that prompted Mirror Box? She says, yes, this performance was also based on the Cologne attacks and the discussion about respect towards women. I decided to go one step further and show a woman can decide when and if she wants to be touched. There's always a picture that women are victims. For me, that's not powerful. When you show that a woman has a voice when it comes to sexuality and has rights, I think it's a better way to show that women are not only victims. Mirror Box is a better way to show that women are strong when they talk about sexuality and not only victims. I've been receiving messages from people who are, at the grassroots of culture, observing how European women behave. And a lot has been made about, the refugees Here's the problem. And I'll preface this by citing the bogus statistic cited in American universities that 1 in 5 women will experience sexual assault on a college campus, which is a lie and has been proven over and over again to be a lie. But, with that in mind, false rape claims are definitely a concern in America. Recall that there were similar alleged crimes, committed against Swedish women, and in response, some alleged neo-Nazis went around beating up migrants. And how did the Swedish women respond? The ostensible victims of these attacks, how did they respond? They say, Nazis, we're not your women, hashtag not your women. So what does that tell you? Well, it reflects what I'm being told by listeners of mine, people I talk to on the internet, people who live over there. There being various locales in Western and Northern Europe. A lot of them say that the local women, they partake in the exotic offerings, shall we say. And a lot of them, they regret it. So they do what they do in America. They do what they do on college campuses. The few men left in Europe with a spine, they do something about it, and then what? Well, you'd think that women would be happy that justice is done on their behalf, but no. Hashtag not your women. Which tells you what their original intentions really were. What they were really doing. I've discussed a little bit about the perils of the impending corporate nation state. I've been talking about how disastrous corporate nationalism will be for the human species. I talked about it when the Amazon employee jumped off of their building at their company headquarters. And he jumped off of the building because he thought it was likely that he'd be fired because of some plan he was placed on. What was it? Oh, the employee improvement plan after he had put in a request to transfer to a different department, and they responded by putting him on the track to termination. And so in response, he jumped off a building. Now, this isn't directly connected with the impending corporate nation state, corporate nationalism, and all of the disasters that encompasses, but it does show the groundwork of what is enabling the corporate nation state. People whose livelihoods, whose entire lives, really, it's not just how they pay their bills, but their entire being, their social circle, the events they partake in, it's all filtered through the company they work for. They don't have a life outside of it. Here's a glimpse into the technocratic future that the apparent savior of America, Donald Trump, is enabling. NewYorkPost.com. Poop vans are the secret to Amazon's speedy success. Now, look, I understand he's grumbled about Amazon and mentioning something about antitrust litigation against Amazon, whatever it may be. He doesn't oppose this. He just doesn't like that they have this all to themselves. All right, just let's clear that up first and foremost. So, poop vans are the secret to Amazon's speedy success. From the NewYorkPost.com, written by Frank Chung. Delivery drivers working for online e-commerce giant Amazon urinate and even defecate in their vehicles to meet crushing deadlines, an undercover journalist has claimed. The BBC reporter, who worked at an Amazon depot in the United Kingdom for 2 weeks, said drivers often exceeded the speed limits to deliver up to 200 packages a day. On my first day delivering parcels for Amazon, I soon found that things like tiredness and toilets aren't taken into account when Amazon plans its delivery routes, the reporter wrote. I tried to do the job as quickly as I could while keeping to the speed limit. I was considered very slow. Other drivers at the depot admitted to speeding. One driver said to get the job done, he had to go at 120 miles down the motorway. The journalist, Chris, that's not his real name, it's in quotes, added that a few drivers admitted to peeing in a bottle in their van because they didn't have time to find a toilet. Another admitted having defecated in the back of the van on one occasion, he wrote. Chris said he would arrive at the depot around 7:30 a.m. Some drivers travel up to 90 minutes to get to work before being let inside the warehouse at 8:30 a.m. to sort and load his packages for the day. The company provided drivers with a handheld scanner programmed by Amazon with a route to follow. If all goes to plan, the drivers may be on the road at 9:30 a.m. rather, he wrote. Sometimes the packages aren't ready until much later. The drivers earn a fixed rate per day for their route, but nearly every day there was a problem with the scanner which delayed me. Most days I would get back to the depot at around 8:30 p.m. I would regularly notice the same faces that I'd seen in the morning back in the warehouse in the evening, so I know I wasn't the only one struggling to finish the round in the expected time. Like the other drivers at my agency, I was expected to be available for work at least 6 days per week. So let that image imprint on your mind. And it's not just Amazon. I remember listening to a radio show about the logistics industry. Yeah, a guy who worked for UPS talking about all the crazy shit he did to meet deadlines. So this is nothing new. Designated shitting vans. You colonized India, now India's colonizing you. Funny how that works, huh? That's what you gotta be careful of. What you put out, it comes back around. And often it amplifies by the time it gets to you. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as we are still feeling the effects of colonialism and the, well, what has resulted from that. But wait, there's more. From themirror.co.uk, Amazon workers roughing it in tents to hold down seasonal jobs at warehouse. 3 staff were spotted sleeping in bitterly cold conditions in Woodland beside the retail giant's base during the busy Christmas period. Staff at Amazon have resorted to sleeping in tents near one of the retailer's warehouses. At least 3 workers have been spotted in Woodland beside the online retail giant's base in recent days. It has sparked concerns about the depths some employees are apparently plumbing to hold down a job. Amazon employs around 1,500 staff on a permanent basis at its fulfillment center in Dunfermline. But the company has created 4,000 seasonal jobs to help cover the busy Christmas and New Year period. Temp jobs and tent homes. What more can you say? So we will we'll leave it at that. Let's see what you have to say. Question, comment, thread on the Common Filth subreddit, starting with, is a person a colossal idiot if they still support the gay community and have sodomite friends when a crazed sodomite stalker, lesbian to be exact, ruined them emotionally and ruined any potential for future relationships with them? Because I knew a girl like that, and I think that was the good Lord helping me dodge a bullet without me even knowing it. Yeah, that would qualify as a colossal idiot. Staring evil right in the face. Having the greatest insight you could have into what these people really are, and you're just like, yeah, this is what I want. Yeah, that makes you the a colossal idiot, like you put it. God does work in unforeseen ways. You know, that Blair White character who I talked about on a previous episode, that delusional guy who thinks he's a girl. He exists to expose just how gay white people are. Like there's some Identity Europa or Europa Rising page, whatever the hell it's called, posting a screenshot to their Facebook page of this idiot's tweets and saying, my kind of girl, when it's not a girl. It's not that hard to figure out that he's a transsexual. He's simply cosplaying as a lady. Not that hard to figure out. Yet they don't. Maybe they don't want to figure it out. Maybe they want to exist in a state of plausible deniability. I don't know. It's just, I don't know why they do it. It's strange. Hey, CF, I have a question, but before that, I just want to thank you for bringing me back to Christianity. I have not abandoned it in my early years, but I was not very religious either. It has strengthened my faith and devotion to Jesus and made me a better person. At least I believe so. No, it's Jesus who made you a better person. Always. It wasn't me. I'm just here to give my perspective and give my thoughts on the matter. That's it. So my question would be, what is your stance about iconoclasm? I'm very fond of all my icons, of Maria, Jesus, Mother of God, of Seven Blades, Georgia, etc. But the second commandment states, you shall not make idols. Well, I'm not going to disparage any of those people. Nor am I going to disparage the images created of those people. But you can't lose sight of what gives those images significance. You don't look at just a crucifix carving and just make that your god. All right, that's stupid. You view it as a representative object. And if there's no representation behind that object, well, then you are assigning significance, looking for significance where there is none. I'm not going to say burn the images or throw them away of the individuals you're talking about here, of the biblical figures you're talking about. But remember to read that book. Remember to remind yourself what it's all about. And there's a very long discussion thread about this. It's very good, but for the sake of time, I don't have a whole lot of time here. But there's good stuff in it. Very good stuff. All right, next. Wait. Okay, wow, this is really long. Okay. Hey, CF, will you ever go full merchant mode and sell more stuff outside of stickers on your Bandcamp? Do you have any new ideas for merch? Maybe a poster or a limited run of t-shirts? I want more t-shirts. It sounds like I said t-shirts. T-shirts. I want more people to know that I ignore sodomite orders. Thanks and God bless. The response, try the new Super Filth Vitality by Common Filth Health. Well, we aren't quite to the direct sales point yet, but I did spend a little time, little money designing something new for you all, which I'll talk about a little more once I have it in my possession. So there's definitely more on that front. Details to come later. Hey, so yeah, pretty new to your channel and also my first comment. Love your videos. It's one of the best things that has happened in my life so far. Thank you so much. Keep doing the Lord's work. Well, thanks. That means a lot. I have a question that I have never been able to find an answer for you. I have a girl currently that I'm looking to marry and would be the happiest man alive for her to be my wife and to bear my children. But I cannot truly say with my mouth that I love her. Yes, I want the best for her and I would always stand up for her and be by her side no matter what. But there has been something missing. In a previous relationship, I was with an ungodly woman who was bisexual, but I loved her just like I love my girl now. I would have done anything for her. When I was with her, I felt the strangest happiness in my heart that I've never felt before, and I was smiling and just completely giddy. But I do not get this way around the girl I have now. Is what I felt with the previous girl a honey-coated sinful feeling that I shouldn't have with my girl now? I'd like your input on this. Love you, CF. No sodomy. You don't need to say that. Common sense would dictate the first time. It was all new, it was all exciting, it was all happy fun times. But that's all it was. It was amusement. There's anything good about it. So yes, it is just honey-coated whatever. And leave it behind. Because look where those feel-good times led you the first time. Those particular set of it, led you into a relationship with a deranged sodomite. That's what it did. So grow and develop your appreciation for what you have now if what you say is really true. And you can. It is something you have to work at. Basing your life on just, feelings. It's so stupid. You just want a constant high. It's like, that's how you get the generation of late 20s, early 30s idiots who are all young professionals. This is how you get these retards who are just like, polyamory. Open relationships. They want that initial high all the time. And they're too fucking stupid to realize that's an ephemeral, meaningless feeling. Other people are not for their own amusement or for scapegoating. That's what constantly seeking those feelings leads you to. You just view your fellow man or the opposite sex as just a plaything. And if things go wrong, it's your scapegoat. That's all it is. And constantly looking for that, oh, yay, feel good, wow, I feel so, whatever. Constantly. People think happiness and love is just, oh, my heart, oh, everything is nice, oh, everything's shiny, everything's exciting. It's so immature. It's destructive. To speak nothing of its sheer decadence and hedonism. The earth is flat. Wiki for Alright, I'll click on this for you, Nazi furs. Nazi furs is a furry community who harbor an interest in World War II era Germany for historical, militaristic, strategic, living history, reenactment, or fetish reasons. Their first solid presence was through the establishment of a live journal community in March of 2005. The Nazi Furs live journal community states that they seek to further the understanding of Hitler's Germany through study and discussion. And that's to say nothing of the yiffing. And will actually refuse registration to any applicants who are affiliated with any hate groups. What the hell? Users who post anything containing anti-Semitism, racial hatred, or ethnic cleansing unless done in an obviously humorous, sarcastic, or satiric light will be banned. Controversy. In 2007, Jim Grote posted an experience he'd had with Nazi furs at Anthrocon 2006, during which he was called a Jew boy by Nazi furs wearing swastika armbands and other symbolism and... Okay, we gotta read this. Okay, from February 8th, 2007, and here we see the autistic right in its nascent stages here. One thing that's come up in greater numbers at the various cons, especially at Anthrocon, is the Nazi furs. Okay, they state in their own live journal group, this community is in no way related to nor will tolerate racial hatred, blah, 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 everything we read already. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but at last year's Anthrocon, there are a few Nazi furs running about, a couple actually wearing the swastika armband and or party pins. One in particular stood out wearing a long leather trench coat and officer's hat and the armband. When I pointed out to him the obvious faux pas he was displaying, he glanced at my badge, Rabbi Tom, and said, "Piss off, Jew boy." This completely caught me off guard for his blatant disregard and or respect. I fired back at him, "Fucking Nazi wannabe." He grinned and said, "Sig Heil." In the past, I wore German M43 caps at the cons. Was even called to a Nazi to my face a couple times, and every time I got in the person's face pointing to the hat, "Show me the Nazi insignia. Come on, show me." This is what's out there. It's like, born to parents who don't know how to do shit. They don't know how to raise kids. They have no sense of right and wrong. So they're like, do whatever. Be whatever you want, son. All right, I'm going to become a Nazi furry. I'm so proud of myself. One person pointed to the then current West German tricolor and called that the insignia. Another just mushed his face and said something like, "If you wear anything German, you are a Nazi." And with the advent of the Nazi furs, I stopped wearing the M43 caps, though I admit I love the cut of the cap. I'm a military historian. I collect militaria. I own several Nazi items, but mostly for WW2 German military. I own only one SS-related item. Totenkopf Death's Head cap. There is just so much I can't articulate right now. This really is. How is this even real? How do we get this far? I know why. It's everything I talk about, but it's like I didn't know about this stuff back then. The worst I thought in 2007 was Chris Chan, and we just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But it's always been this way. See, the culture isn't that much different. All of the anti-Christian, pro-gay people have just moved over to the right wing. It's the same shit as Daily Show, Jon Stewart-style liberalism, just with more white people. That's all. That's it. The ideas are the same. The behaviors are the same. Where they've moved, well, you saw where they were moving right here. My goodness. And what else? Banal Heart, or Banal Heart, rather, is an American anthropomorphic fan and artist who lives in Mobile, Alabama. The South never mind. Lives in Mobile, Alabama. He's the founder of the Nazi First community on LiveJournal. Banal Heart's involvement with the fandom began as early as 1998, when he stumbled upon artwork of an anthropomorphic nature on the internet, while researching material for the game Werewolf the Apocalypse as an assistant storyteller on White Wolf Inc.'s Java-based chat, New Bremen, where he was in charge of monitoring the Black Spiral Dancers. I don't know what any of this means. Banal Heart's persona Shoji is a male anthropomorphic Filth. Just, what are we doing? What are you doing? You think you're an animal. You think you're a Nazi. You think you're a Nazi anthropomorphic thing. And now this Nazi furry guy is an EMT. What the fuck is it with weirdos and wanting to be paramedics? It's like, I don't think I've ever met like a normal paramedic. Ever. Or I've ever heard of one anyway. I'm gonna think about it. I don't think I've ever met a... Yeah. Scratch that. I've never heard of a normal paramedic. They're always into some fucked up shit like this. Well, you know what? I have nothing to say other than... What? It's knowing what the right wing is now. And where it came from. Well, this is where it came from. It's no surprise what it is right now. Well, maybe there are people who wrote into the show who... I do remember at least one person who wrote into me wanting to be a paramedic, so... That's about it. Anyway, this is from over a year ago, but I rediscovered it the other day and realized that you would like it, and we have moved on past the Nazi furry thing. It's a homily from the Orthodox priest, Friar Josiah Trenum. It's a great defender of traditional Christian marriage and values given the Sunday after the Gay Marriage Supreme Court ruling was passed, entitled A Black Day Supreme Folly from the Supremes. I'll share a few choice quotes and then link to the full sermon. Both audio and a written transcript are available on the site. He begins the homily like this. You are wondering, I'm sure, why your priest is celebrating the liturgy in his black vestments that we wear in Holy Week and at funeral. You're wondering probably who died, and I haven't told you that. Told you yet. Much worse than that, brothers and sisters. I wish that instead of the cause for wearing black vestments today, I had only the sorrow to tell you that one of our beloved passed away. I don't. I wear black today in mourning of our nation, which has been terribly shamed, and its leaders have stuck a knife into its heart. And so all the celebrants today are wearing appropriate vestments. I call upon all Orthodox Christians in this parish to remain unmoved in their Orthodox faith and to renew their deep reverence and a commitment to marriage itself. I call upon our nation's civic leaders and to respect the law of Almighty God, and to remember the coming day upon which we will all account for our actions before the supreme tribunal of the sovereign judge of all judges. What has happened, brothers and sisters? What has happened? I've long spoken to you about the sexual revolution. I've asserted over years that it is the most violent and influential of all contemporary revolutions. Its tentacles continue to extend, and its false and dehumanizing presuppositions continue to spawn new societal developments, taking us ever further from God and from civilized humanity. What is going to come within the Orthodox Christian community itself? What should we expect right now in our church? First, brothers and sisters, you better get ready to lose a lot of parishioners. There are plenty of places across the country where people are Orthodox because they were born Orthodox. They are no more Orthodox by conviction than Justice Kennedy. I was so saddened to see my children showing me on their social media sites how many Orthodox kids were celebrating this passage. The millennials! They're catechized by the devil, and we've allowed it to happen, brothers and sisters. Yes, that's the most important thing to remember. We allow it to happen. And they allow it to happen. What did I tell you? Just at the grassroots level, everyday impulses, just seeing how people behave in their ambient state, you'll see that anytime something bad happens to a homo, apparently, everybody's like, this is homophobia. This is why homophobia is a problem. Without fail. When the gay marriage bullshit passed, all these kids, yay, homos, and it's no surprise. No surprise. Like in Europe. One out of 10 people say they've tried sodomy and liked it. 1 out of 5 Eurotrash, young Eurotrash, say they haven't tried it but want to. It is the issue of our day. And you know what? Nobody's doing anything about it. Except for, well, you're listening to one of them. We put our kids into those scenes, we let them watch those movies. We hear that garbage music over and over and over again, and now they're not ours anymore. They don't recognize the faith they were born into, so expect it. And this is something I also want to bring about back when this really started to happen, and this is something I should talk about at the, more towards the beginning of a show. But you remember during the 2000s when there were shows like, what was it? Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. That got a couple of seasons. People watched that shit. And then I remember there's a parody show of the inverse, where it's like straight guys telling gay guys how to be straight on Comedy Central. And he had movies like Brokeback Mountain. All throughout the 2000s, it was almost an onslaught of pro-homosexual propaganda from every possible angle. You know that commercial I put in AFK number 10? If you haven't watched that yet, I recommend that you do. Yeah, that commercial for that church that had like that portrayed the bouncers outside of the church, letting in only white heterosexual people. The first people they show interacting with the bouncers are 2 dudes holding hands, and the bouncer's like, "No, you can't come in here." And then they equate it with a blind black man that they turned aside, somebody in a wheelchair, and like a bunch of different racially ambiguous people. So what this commercial is trying to say is that most churches turn away people in wheelchairs and people who aren't white, which is the biggest fucking lie ever told. And it just goes to show you how ham-fisted that shit was. And it's like, oh, Jesus didn't turn away anybody. First of all, that's untrue. He turned away a shit ton of people. So that's a complete fucking falsehood. So what you're left with is the ones who would possibly be turned away, which are 2 open sodomites, which, as we know, are the enemy of all God-fearing people. So yes, they would have good reason to turn those people away. So in essence, that commercial was just about, our church lets in gay people. Yours doesn't. And that's just as bad as turning away a blind black man. Which never happens. These prideful, open, unrepentant sodomites have the nerve to equate themselves with people in wheelchairs. It's not a sin to be disabled. With people with a darker color skin, not a sin to be dark. That commercial that I included in AFK number 10, if you haven't watched it, watch it. That commercial I included in AFK number 10 is a perfect encapsulation of many perfect encapsulations of just how insane these creatures are. And that commercial, the point I'm trying to make here was from 2004, within that time frame I'm talking about. And everybody believed it. Everybody's like, yeah, I'm for that. And now you have 1 in 10 white dudes sucking dick and bragging about it, and 1 in 5 who want to try it. But continuing with the homily. Many shallow Orthodox Christians who are more formed by secular society than by the church will fall away, and by the way, this will include bishops and priests. Mark my words, there has never been a time where the dragon has breathed this aggressively down the church's throat when we don't have collapse at the top. He always goes for the top. If he can strike the shepherd, then he scatters the sheep. We already have the priests. We already have priests. A number of them are respective senior priests, deans of cathedrals on the East Coast who have written in support of same-sex marriage. I don't think they have much of a future. I think the people are being pretty faithful to smack them down. But it exists, and I will not be surprised if a bishop here or there comes out in favor. The phonies will show themselves, and this is why you need theocracy. All right, this is why the church needs to be its own governance and have its own governance and have its own land. And also the stalwarts will show themselves. The real leaders of our bishops will show themselves because of this. And also many Americans are going to become Orthodox Christians. Many Americans whose churches are going the way of society are going to be coming into our church. This is one of our great ministries now, is to keep those doors open and to receive them into the faith, which isn't interested in being accommodating to this. What should we do ourselves? What should we do ourselves in this parish? One, remain as you are, remain God-loving, devout, Orthodox Christians, and don't let this attack on our faith and on our livelihood turn us into something we're not. We love God and we love people. That's why we're opposed to this. We're opposed to it because we don't like God and His name and His laws being attacked. Well, here's the problem. You have to hate those who attack His law. Because those that attack His law hate Him. This is why we're up in arms. And we also oppose this because the celebration and the victory, not of love, that little ridiculous tagline, love wins, it's hate that has won. No, it's indifference that has won. That's where I would disagree. It is nihilism that has won. Because we exalt the perfect embodiment of nihilism above all else. Above all else, which is why so many people go out of their way to praise it.
Oh, isn't it great? Love wins. Love is love.
All the time. An incessant cacophony of lies. And you have to oppose that. And how you oppose it is as simple as judging them. Because they don't fear death because they're already dead. The act which they indulge in constantly, the act by which they define themselves, is the act that signifies the death of the human species, so they're already dead. They don't fear death. They fear judgment. 2, this is going to cause tremendous numbers of people to engage and experiment in a life that is positively dangerous. A life that has high rates in this world of HIV and AIDS, hepatitis, all sorts of venereal diseases, high rates, way higher than normal, of psychological disorders, when it is a disorder in and of itself, but again, put that aside, depression and suicide. Yes, it's because they're dead. And they want the they want the physical to reflect the spiritual, which is why they're all self-destructive. Without exception, they are all self-destructive. And we're going to encourage people down this road. That's love. That's hatred. We're opposed to this because we love people. We want them to be healed. We don't want to take their disorders and put them in cement and say, God did it. Well, I'll disagree there as well. Who sent HIV? Who sent AIDS and hepatitis and super syphilis? Contrary to popular belief, AIDS was not created in a government lab somewhere. All right? And we need to recognize where we are. This is the new normal. Get used to it. This is post-Christian times. Learn what it means to be an exile and a minority from the prophet Daniel. He saw exile, and he remained faithful. And he did not bow down to Nebuchadnezzar or his images. And he also lived to see the fall of Babylon. The church has outlived every empire. She's coursed with empires through their victories and through their falls. We know that the war that has been going on, of which this is just a small piece, is a war between the dragon and our Savior. We know that the dragon has been cast out of heaven. The dragon is roaring. We smell his breath. The beast and the false prophet are well known to us. They're advancing the dragon's agenda. Of course, we're sad to see our beloved nation, for so long a city on a hill, stamping the mark of the beast upon its citizens and putting it under boycott, and that is exactly what this is. The attack has come already on Christian business owners, on Christian medical professionals, the attack that's coming on our schools and universities. This is the stamp or the mark of the beast right out of the Apocalypse, which says that unless you bow down to the policy of the beast, you will become economically boycotted. You will not be able to buy nor sell. It appears in every generation someplace, and it's raising its head now. And we know what to do. Refuse it. Because you all have been sealed with God's sign, the cross. God's put his stamp of ownership on you. You can't take the mark of the beast too, brothers and sisters. We're sad, but we're not surprised. Babylonian culture falls everywhere that it asserts itself. The future is bleak. No one and no culture that opposes God and his law, persecutes the faithful, has any future at all. Stay yourself, recognize where you are, judge the time correctly, and fight like hell. Do you hear me? Fight. Let your love compel you. Respect his words, God's words. Remember the Maccabees. When the Greeks came and tried to impose Greek pagan religion on them, tried to ban circumcision, defile the temple, and the Maccabees went into the hills. They had password between each other. God's help, and they fought. We have to do the same. Build your own marriages. You think this came out of nowhere? You know what preceded this ruling? Skyrocketing divorce, the rejection of children in marriage, adultery out the wazoo. We can't look at this and say to ourselves, oh, those gays. No, 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 no. We should look at that and say, God, forgive us. This is our problem. This is our mess. We bought the whole hook, line, and sinker of the sexual revolution, and now we're wondering that this is actually happening. We can live for pleasure alone and reject responsibility in marriage. Father, kids, and not be there as dads. Leave our wives and just get new ones all the time. We can't do that, and this isn't going to happen. Well, it is not going to happen on our own. Which is why we need to learn from the mistakes of our parents and do the opposite. Do the opposite of what they did. There's a very clear track record of what you do, but no. Despite all the fuck you mom and dad posturing, Gen X, they were just like baby boomers, just more nonchalant about things. In fact, I would say that Gen Xers are worse because of how pathologically apathetic they are. They don't actually, they might make fun of stuff, but they have no sincere beliefs. I've witnessed this firsthand. They don't give a fuck about anything. They just want to have a good time, man. Hey, man. Don't be such a buzzkill. Don't be such a downer, man. Fuck you. Fucking apathetic, burnout pieces of shit. That's what they are. There are some people that exist just to be made an example out of. But it doesn't serve its purpose if nobody learns from their shit example. Very few people have. Anyhow, last week I posted a comment, and in said comment I mentioned waiting for God to return. I just wanted to clear it up. I didn't literally mean God returning or anything related to rapture theology. I could have probably phrased it better, but I basically just meant, should we wait for our civilization to end because then people will eventually turn back to God? Anyway, though, thanks for answering the question. I just wanted to clear that up so you didn't get the wrong idea. Well, there are people out there who would start on the right path because of this civilization's failure. Think about it. If this civilization was still healthy, they'd make a false idol out of the civilization that we exist in, which is what a lot of young white people have done. They're just like, oh, we don't commit crimes like black people do, therefore, ignoring all of the white diaspora's very unique moral failings. And then they blame civilization's fall on everything except for themselves. But there are people who wouldn't have their come to Jesus moment if it weren't for just the decay that surrounds them. So no, we don't have to wait for it. It's going to end. We are living at it. We're the product of some pretty precise timing. So we don't need to wait for it to end. The writing is on the wall. It's ending. What we need to stop waiting for is the permission to start building something else. And be that something else. You want a solution? There's the solution. What's up, CF? It's the Hick, back at it again. I just wanted to see if you had noticed something. There are so many people obsessed with horoscopes. Also, a few days ago, I saw an ad on YouTube that started with, I never felt discriminated against in the military for being gay. Really makes me not want to follow my hick brethren to die in some sand monkey hellhole. Well, hey, they'll like doing it because they're doing it for Trump. All right? We don't want Hillary to send us into that same kind of war, no. It's much better if Trump does it. And it's gonna happen. It's going to fucking happen. Also, go on YouTube and look up Google Gear. Search 2016 and be sure to have your translator on that translates love to come. And then, have you seen the latest Nat Geo magazine with the 9-year-old transvestite? It's horrifying. Keep up the good work, CF. I don't know what people's obsession with horoscopes are. Just finding significance where there is none, like we always do. Like so many people do. Not you and me, just the culture in which we find ourselves embedded. I cannot wait to see America fall flat on its face in World War III. It's going to be just such a disaster that, the nuclear vaporizing, it'll almost be worth it. Hey, CF, new listener here. So I've been incredibly lonely for a while. I'm 21 years old and I've not had a relationship in 2 years. I've also never had sex, which has left me feeling worthless and invalidated. Well, that is really fucking stupid if your entire sense of self-worth is dependent on putting your penis in a vagina. That is really dumb. And you need to reevaluate your priorities. I've been looking, but I don't have a lot of friends, and I've been feeling more angry and alone by each day. I fear I also may not be able to emotionally connect with any woman, which has me scared. Well, yeah, with that attitude, you won't. I've been very much considering going to see an escort just so I can get it over with and have some confidence. So getting something that you didn't earn, that you just threw some money at. Oh, there you have it. You did it. Now what? No, you're not looking for sex. You are looking for the love and admiration of a woman, which you have not yet earned. And you are not alone. You're not alone in that at all. But guess what? It's time to start earning it. And not in the sense of, oh, I have X amount of dollars, time to go see an escort. No, none of that. That ain't gonna buy you the admiration and respect of a woman. In fact, that'll do a lot to damage it. At least damage it in the eyes of a woman worthy of earning her admiration and respect. So, yeah, start doing that instead. Alright, next. How's life, CF? I hope you're doing well and have ample supply of Gatorade. Question, I heard you mention that oral sex gives you mouth cancer. Can you please explain this? Also, you ever heard of aquaponics? I recently got into the hobby and it's pretty fun and relatively cheap. What's that? Oh, okay. Well, no, I haven't heard of that. The startling rise in oral cancer in men and what it says about our changing sexual habits. This is something I've been meaning to get to, but other things just got in the way. This is from thewashingtonpost.com. So, oral cancer, a growing health issue. Claim lines with an oral cancer diagnosis increased 61% from 2011 to 2015. The greatest increases occurred in throat cancer and tongue cancer. Oral cancer is on the rise in American men, with health insurance claims for the condition jumping 61% from 2011 to 2015, according to a new analysis. The most dramatic increases were in throat and tongue cancer, and the data shows that claims were nearly 3 times as common in men as in women during that same time period, with a split of 74% to 26%. The startling numbers published in a report on Tuesday by Fair Health and an independent nonprofit are based on a database of more than 21 billion privately billed medical and dental claims. They illustrate both the cascading effect of the HPV virus, I know redundant, but HPV in the United States, and our changing sexual practices. The American Cancer Society estimates that 50,000 Americans will be infected this year, with 9,500 dying from the disease. In past generations, oral cancer was mostly linked to smoking, alcohol use, or a combination of the two, but even as smoking rates have fallen, oral cancer rates have remained about the same, and researchers have documented in recent studies that this may be caused by HPV. That is all. Hey CF, I new to the channel and wanted to share a story from the wonderful place known as the Bay Area in Northern California. I used to be someone who was accepting and willing to open up to everyone until I had the wool lifted off my eyes and I began to see the world that I was living in. I never had a problem with my sister's behavior until after I took a more critical view of the Western world. My sister is a coal-burning bisexual who goes to the gay pride parade in San Francisco and smokes weed on a regular basis. This doesn't sound so much like a Bay Area thing as it sounds like an average American thing. She hooked up with many people, but at one point hooked up with a black man, not the respectable kind. He has a white mother, no father, and a past girlfriend who is black. He bagged his pants all the time and was someone she met at a party. He appeared to be okay at first until something changed. My sister was hostile towards my mother and kept pushing us away. My mother was worried for my sister, but did nothing about it. She ended up leaving him 2 years later. Turns out he got addicted to meth and was abusing my sister. I hate myself for not making any effort to stop it at any time during that relationship. Well, what the hell were you going to do about it? You going to tell her to stop? I mean, really, what could you have done? You know, some people are just determined to self-destruct. Like I like to say, what are you self-determined to do? Whenever she goes to gay pride parades in San Francisco, she sets up an entire costume to go to these events, getting wings, police outfits, dog leashes, etc. She invites me to go, but I respectfully decline. In prior instances, no, you need to disrespectfully decline. I hate to say it, but my sister is a sodomite. Yes, she is. Plan to get out of this state as soon as I survive college, which segues into my question. What state would you recommend that I move to in order to have less sodomite behavior? Well, let me tell you a story here. Last year, I told this story. I was in Idaho last year. Boise, Idaho. It's a nice city, nice. It's clean, but morally the people are just as derelict as in the Bay Area or any other place. Look, I got off the plane, got my rental car. Within the first 30 minutes of my feet being down in that place, I saw Bernie Sanders stickers, coexist stickers. I wandered around the university, saw a poster for Diversity Week with LGBTQ gender workshops. So, everywhere you go in America, you're going to find the same shit over and over and over and over again. So don't go looking for a state based on how cool it is or whatever, because the best chance you have is away from some college town, away from some urban center. All right, the best you'll get maybe is suburbia, but more often than not, suburbia is just a place where pieces of shit who work at universities hide, who promote deviant garbage. And this is a perfect segue. One of your fans is concerned about your health given that you live in modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah, which bombard you with evil constantly. I don't live near it. I live around Mexican working-class people and clueless middle-class whites. There's very little of the culture that influences me anecdotally. And you know what? Undertow brought this up when I was doing the Beckloff election night live stream when they had me on there. And thank you to Beckloff and the crew over there for having me on. But Undertow said to me, you are influenced by where you live in California. And I said to him, very little of what I talk about is from California, and that remains true to this day. These days I'm focusing more on the British Isles. But I've read stories from the middle of Oklahoma about middle-aged lesbians doing bestiality, child abuse, what have you. I've read stories about gay Syrian refugees settling in Idaho. To bring that up again. I will say this though, the best of the bunch in California, the church-going, scripture-reading, God-fearing people, they all seem to have a lot of personal baggage, and it's good. It is a good thing that they're going to church to deal with that, but that's where their energy is invested. It's not in these cultural battles that people like you and I fight. Me and you, the listener. And so this is a ridiculous title that says 12-way San Francisco Bay Area warps common filth. As if knowing the truth is contingent on geographic circumstance. This is what I like about social media and what I don't like about it. You get the cross-section of people. Like the cross-section of the Western world, you get a pretty representative example because they're not all coming from the same place, especially if you're going on, just random Facebook pages, even my own. Like I was talking about this on the episode of Common Filth Extra that I just did. Seeing all these people on the Tumblristas page who are like, I like gays, but I don't like SJWs. You need to stop being homophobic. And they all come from far and wide. If my analysis of what the world really is was contingent upon geography, I'd move. But pretty much everywhere, it's gonna be paused. And over the course of this program, I have proven that. Beyond the shadow of reasonable doubt. Given the Stonewall riots were the turning point in terms of gay rights, and isn't the Stonewall, whatever that place is, isn't that like a national monument now? They'll turn Pulse nightclub into one too. As we found out last week, even conservative rural Finland has Tom of Finland. We learned about that from a loyal listener. Pretty much everywhere. It's gonna be, well, you know. How would you, as mayor, have dealt with the rioting sodomites? I would have put them in jail. No tolerance. Zero tolerance. Hola, CF. A quick question for you. You frequently disparage welfare and socialism in general, which is perfectly reasonable. However, you've also noted the drive to push pause in order to open up new revenue streams for capitalism. For example, the Rockefeller and Ford Foundations essentially funded gay rights and transgenderism into existence through research grants, and are also the only reasons anyone's ever heard of Friedrich Hayek. Leftist identity politics and free markets are two sides of a single coin. Yeah, man. Nobody wants to own up to that. And the Rockefellers, in particular, this is the focus of the episode of Common Filth Extra I just did, towards the second half anyway. They funded women's liberation to cut wages in half, turn homes against each other, give children to the school so the state could raise the kids, so they could raise the perfect drones. And what were the Rockefellers? What are the Rockefellers? Well, there are a lot of things, but nothing anybody who's on the up and up on these subjects is willing to admit. So given that capitalism is determined to propagandize us all into eunuch faggots and destroy our species while socialism genocides Christians, and always either reverts to capitalism or implodes into failed states, what is the sane alternative? Absolute decentralization. Capitalism always leads to centralization. Socialism always leads to centralization, so there's my answer. Ignore sodomite orders. From Facebook? Who's that cover girl? It's Avery Jackson, because trans is beautiful. Oh yeah, it's on the cover of National Geographic. I've known about this. We've talked about tranny kids on this show before. It's nothing new. Nothing new at all. Hey, insert creative title here. Is that long-haired dude you keep posting on Twitter really you? Yes. But anyway, I just wanted to say thanks for the shows that you do. Looking forward to that book you're planning on. God bless and greetings from South Carolina. God bless you, friend. And what I say is the truth. That handsome son of a bitch you're looking at is me. You knew this one was coming, but what do you think of the Black Israelites? I haven't heard you speak of the issue before. Obviously they are hilarious and don't hold back, but why do they hold on to a few misinterpreted passages in the Bible? I think they are great at calling people out, but I can't ignore this and the other stuff they say about aliens and spaceships. You telling me we was aliens and shit? You telling me we was aliens? Shit. No, I like them, but at the same time I do see traces of, these autistic white supremacist guys, like, oh, we're the chosen, we're the best, we're this, we're that, and you know, and one of their major flaws comes from their Edomite thing, calling whites the Edomites when whites are Japheth. All right, the Edomites were completely wiped out, fulfilling prophecy back in I don't know what century, but they were. That's what ended up happening. Edomites don't exist anymore. Hola, Eduardo Jones, Venezuelan listener here. I hope you are navigating your country's economic collapse as well as you possibly can. I just heard a last episode today. I wanted to share some great news. If you didn't know, last year we elected our first tranny congresswoman via election. This is so progressive that some guy actually made a movie about him. There's no IMDb link yet, but I know you know Spanish, so I'll give a link to some news website from here. No, I don't. I know like two Spanish things, or as I like to call them Mexican. No. Vaya con Dios and Viva la Raza. That's it. Luckily, if you call that shit luck, he was forced to register himself under his dead name, Tomas Mariano Adrian Hernandez. That's a spicy name. At least our laws haven't been paused yet to legally recognize this abomination. You're still paying dividends on that colonization, Spain. But America has you beat, like America has everybody beat. USA, USA. In 2014, New Hampshire, a state in the United States, as you may be aware of, first transgender lawmaker, Stacy Lofton, the state's first openly transgender legislator, elected, by the way, during the 2014 midterms, if I wasn't not mistaken, because yeah, I'm not mistaken. This story came from March 2015. So, New Hampshire's first transgender lawmaker arrested for hospital bomb threat. Sane people. This is the best of the trans community. Hospital bomb threat. Okay, state's first openly transgender legislator was arrested Thursday by Nashville police after saying she is the person responsible for calling in a hoax bomb threat at a local hospital. Lofton, who was elected to the House of Representatives and then withdrew her candidacy days later, turned herself in on Thursday on a warrant for the February 27th incident after spending 2 weeks receiving treatment at a Vermont hospital for bipolar disorder. A crazy tranny? No, those don't exist. It's everything that they do that's wrong with them. It's the fault of heteropatriarchy. That's it. That's it. No, it's cis heteromatriarchy too. It's their fault. Anyway, so yeah, we got you covered. In other news, do you remember that I told you our inflation is very, very high, right? Our genius president just got a great idea that won't totally fuck us over next year. You see, we can fix our economy if we recall our cash to bank because our largest denomination note will be nullified this week, if I recall correctly. Meaning that we have to use our credit and debit cards to pay most of our expenses that are already impossible because our banks suck and transactions take hours to make them. Also, over 1 million toys were confiscated by the government and will be sold cheaply, or who the fuck knows what they're going to do with them actually. Socialism totally works, guys. God, please get me out of here. Though, correct me if I'm wrong here. I heard that it's more the collapsing oil prices are doing you in pretty good too. So that might have something to do with it as well. Just something I've heard, something I'm throwing out there that might not be true, but I do know that oil exports are a very important part of the Venezuelan economy. I heard from the story of the something. Verdadero, I don't know, something Blanco. I heard the story from the Argentina. Now I'm severely disappointed, hesitant to move there because I'm planning to immigrate to that country hopefully next year. Also, I bought some medicines and vitamins for my brother through your Amazon referral link, and I hope that you'll buy some chorizo and baguettes with that money. Dope lunch idea for you there. I do like bread. I like bread a lot. And thank you for doing that. That was really cool of you. Stay safe, CF, and I hope you have a wonderful pagan consumerist day and New Year with your familia, amigo. Pause you later. Yeah, stay alive down there. It's some troubling times. Much more troubling times than up here as they stand, but yeah, thank you for all the support, and yeah, thanks for the news. A hospital bomb. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that lunatic. Hey, see, if my country is so degenerated, I'll tell you this. In my school, there are schoolmates that suffered way too much social engineering that they accept not just giving children to sodomites, but they also accept single motherhood. Not joking. They literally accept single parents, and when I try to argue, one schoolmate came up with this. There are children that grow up with a mother and father and end up in poverty. Yes, Common Filth, she literally said this, and I couldn't even believe it. They think that it's okay if a child grows up without a mother and or a father. This was in Catholic Portugal, which unfortunately was captured by the monsters of the abyss. That shows how much a society can decline, and what I said is not false, it's the truth. Well, I wouldn't have any reason to doubt you. This is just a common attitude. This is a very common view held everywhere in the Western world. Whether you're in Portugal, whether you're in Germany, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Mobile, Alabama. Mobile, Alabama. Isn't that a college town? I won't look it up. But, yeah. This shows how much a society can decline. You're absolutely right about that. And that's very sad that one of your classmates says that the first thing that goes to your mind is, they could have two parents and still be in poverty. What, money's the most important thing? You know, there's being poor in wealth, and there's being poor in spirit. There's no point in having all that money if you are a terrible person. If you are not a good, righteous, decent person or person striving towards that, does you nothing. I subscribe to your channel thanks to Earl of Grey, and I watch your Tumblr Insta series, your AFK videos, and I listen to your radio shows. Hey, it's all good stuff, and I'm glad you support it. And send my thanks to Earl of Grey. Earl of Grey is an excellent, excellent person. Good guy. You're a little dot of green in the plains of the internet, but you are a light in the plains of darkness. Thank you. God bless you. Well, that's a very nice thing to say, and God bless you as well. I see if it's a landscaper from Denmark here. I have some reflections which I wish to share with you. I was going to make a Lego joke, but I'll hold off. The moral principles of the Christians of Denmark, which can be discerned from their moral judgments, show themselves to be anything but actual biblical principles. If it isn't stated explicitly in the Bible that X is a sin, X being, whatever, to the listeners, you already knew that, then it's okay. However, if it is only mentioned that X is a sin in the Old Testament, it is okay anyway because the law has passed away. You know, this only refers to dietary restrictions, right? And the circumcision requirements. Do they understand this? No, of course not. If they did, they wouldn't say stupid crap like that, implying that the Old Testament no longer is an accurate description of God's opinion of anything. 2, if something happens between consenting adults, then we can't make it illegal. That would be theocracy. But religion and politics should be separate, a dichotomy I find preposterous. Truth is truth, and politics is about making societal decisions based on truth. Well, the church being subservient to the state is, instead of them being one and the same, it is ridiculous. Remember the story of that German fella, Armin Mevis? I know I like to bring this up a lot when it comes to the situation, but he found some guy who consented to be killed. It's still murder. And this attitude, again, is just everywhere. Whatever you want to define as white, you'll find it. The attitude that if you agree to something, it's fine. Nobody can say anything bad about it. That's okay. That's acceptable, and it's unacceptable. A volunteer-based consent morality is what we have now, and people are miserable because of it. People think pleasure is the same thing as happiness. People think freedom and vice are one and the same. And you can't undo it if you can't undo these notions if you accept consent as the end-all be-all, as the foundation by which every moral decision is made. This shows they believe that God sets down rules for no reason, that his laws are somehow not central to the functioning of human society. They reveal how they hate God's commandments, for they seek to circumvent them rather than apply them. Yeah, and if you do apply them, they'll put you in jail for homophobia. They reveal that they see God as an arbitrary dictator who sets down rules and repeals them at whim without a coherent system of thoughts and principles behind. Well, this shows the roots of pagan Europe still, they haven't repented for them. Because pagan gods behave in a very arbitrary manner. Because that's what they think that the things they can't see do. So they're projecting that sensibility they have onto God, which is just ridiculous. And of course they'd view that as stupid and dictatorial and unfair because, well, it is, except with God. The one true God, there is no God but God. You see that he doesn't behave arbitrarily at all. Even the conservatives, quote-unquote conservatives, are merely selling what the radicals pushed 70 years ago. They care not and do not understand the difference between the flesh and the spirit, between spiritual society and natural society. At the core, civilization is built on the principles of the present generation sacrificing for the future generation, and on sexuality being limited to reproduction in a stable environment, the family. So that excess sexual energy is used for constructive purposes. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to feel good all the time. Because you need to find new and crazy ways to achieve that same high, which is how you get addiction. But nobody wants to do it. I mean, it's not even a sacrifice. It's just stop being a chronic masturbator, basically. That's not exactly a painful sacrifice to make. That quit playing with yourself, quit using other people as just as a plaything, and go do something with yourself. Go build something. Go do something that doesn't involve cum. It's that simple. This is contrary to the state of nature. Nature's animals act on their desires above all else. The only reason animals care for their offspring is because they are programmed for this. If other desires become more powerful, they are quick to kill off their offspring. I don't want to raise my kid. My kid's a cunt. Yes. and you, which just goes to shit. Never mind. You get it. I don't want to have kids right now, so I'll get an abortion. I hope this has made some kind of sense and can serve as a springboard for your thoughts. God bless you, CF, and thank you allowing God to work through you like he does. All of this reflects a lot of what I said about European culture and all of its offshoots, all of its branches. We think pursuit of vice is freedom, and the restriction of it is the most oppressive thing ever. We don't like standards. Standards are mean. And there's an input-output relationship with regard to your actions. What you put in is what you get out. And we spend way too much time avoiding consequences for shit. Like, for example, sex, like a penis plus vagina equals baby. We seek to avoid the consequences of that in the most barbaric way imaginable. Abortion, like you said. But no, we put arbitrary consequences on words. Like fining people for hate speech or putting them in jail. For words. For hurt feelings. What amounts to nothing more than hurt feelings. We place consequences on that. I guess we always have behaved like in an arbitrary way, like the pagan gods that we want to go back to. So stupid. It's like, you do understand why your ancestors gave up that shit, right? It's because of people like you, who do behave in an arbitrary way, and thus don't like the gods that behave in an arbitrary way. It is so obvious what is wrong with Europe, what's wrong with America, and nobody wants to own up to it. It's either we ignore it, or we blame it on somebody else and use that scapegoat, that imaginary scapegoat, that do-nothing scapegoat as an excuse to do nothing, as an excuse to just not do anything to improve ourselves. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop now. You know, most solutions are just avoiding the problem. There are many problems we can avoid. I've been hearing the homosexuality is a wired thing in a brain argument a lot through my conversations and questioning with the depraved recently, and I've been starting to wonder something. If they think that homosexuality is wired in the brain, why wouldn't they also believe that things like pedophilia and necrophilia is hardwired into the brain as well? Well, it's all the same. It's your brain directing its reproductive impulse towards death. That's why they won't cross that bridge, because it highlights what they're advocating. Also, if they believe that they should support people who don't have choices of attraction like homosexuality, then why don't they also support pedophilia, bestiality, and necrophilia? Again, that would highlight the absurdity and destructiveness of what they support. The only rationalization they can make on the matter is that, well, homosexuality is a consensual thing, even though it doesn't really start consensually because they're all abused as children. But then, if you're going to use the consent thing, well, who's to say that somebody couldn't sign off on a piece of paper saying, like, when I die, you can use my body for that sick thing. You could do that. You'd say, like, oh, yeah, you could do whatever you want to my body, whatever, I consent to it. But then, what do you have left? You still have an abomination that's being committed. Same thing with bestiality, same thing with any sort of sexual abomination. Man's ability to give life is his most powerful, and when it is redirected in an inconvenient way, well, it speaks for itself. Many blessings from sunny LA County and desolate California. That's a good one. All right, to you on my break at work. It's been a while, but I need to report this to somebody. My skinhead brother got out of prison again recently. He's covered in prison tattoos like an El Salvadorian. But, it's all white power bullshit like runes and skulls and swastikas. He's 30 years old now, but he had a son when he was an out-of-control 16-year-old with some meth whore who was 19. My mother had to adopt the baby after the baby was taken away from the meth mom in some scabby-ridden drug den. The boy's 13 now. He was really making me proud. He was going to school. The way he helped my mom with the younger children was inspiring, frankly. Since last year, however, he smokes pot, ditches his 4-hour-a-day school, even stole my mom's car in the middle of the night and crashed it with a friend. He didn't really get in trouble. My mother is covering up for the boy because she is in the middle of 2 more adoptions. I have an adult sister that is homeless and very mentally ill that keeps having babies. Number 3 could already be born. We have no way of knowing. She won't contact us. Anyway, my mother doesn't want the police involved because of the new babies. I can't really help much. I live 2 hours away and work. I'm very sorry to hear all this. I personally don't think my mom is fit to raise frogs right now. However, the point is that it's funny that someone so tied up in his race that he marks it on his body like a barbarian, yet lets his kid turn into a little white hellion. If you love your race, love your family. If you want to be loyal to white people, take care of your family. Family is race. The way my brother let his family adrift while he fucked nasty whores and shot up heroin. Well, it kind of reminds me of the "it doesn't affect you" crowd. Yeah, and let this be known that the racial activism is fucking useless if you have no family. In fact, your family should be your form of racial activism. Which is why it's so fucking absurd that homosexuals have infiltrated white nationalist movements at an alarming clip. And the fact that white nationalist people allow it. I've observed that gays only attach themselves to dying irrelevant shit. And the fact that they're attaching themselves to the white race, well, tells you all you need to know about that. And the fact that they will not kick these people out, they will not drive them away, tells you all you need to know about them. Everything. Aloha, Spick Jew Guy. A few questions. An extra 45. You said that you're not a fundamentalist. What do you consider yourself then? Please be more specific than Christian. That doesn't mean much anymore, unfortunately. Well, I am an advocate for God's law. Is that good enough for you? Are you actually writing a book? Not right now, but after I get all the best of 2016 stuff done, which is pretty much done at this point. I just have to process a few more files and upload them, and that'll be good to go. That's out on January 2nd, by the way. And did you really call your aunt's kid queer spawn in front of your mother? Yes, I did. And when will you get your lazy wetback ass on Beckloff's Saturday live stream? Soon, hopefully, but the way my schedule's set up right now, I'm busy on Saturdays. If not recording, I am busy fulfilling my social engagements. So that is something that is on my mind. I do like what the Beckloff does over there, so I would like to make another appearance one of these days, sometime soon. Oh, so my country is rapidly making retarded decisions to destroy every resemblance of the family values. First, by allowing same-sex unions earlier this year. Now, by trying to remove any mention of fidelity from marriage contracts. Married Italians might no longer have to be promised to be faithful. Pray for me, for I am feeling nothing but despair inside of me since I've read this. No, that's not despair. That's your faith in man dying. That's your faith in your fellow Italians dying, and that's a good thing. Faith in man gets in the way of your faith in God. P.S. I would also like to thank you for discounting the discography on Bandcamp. I finally decided to purchase it, and it keeps me great company during work. Yep, and you bought it at the right time because there's a ton of stuff I have on there, hours upon hours upon hours of content, and I'm glad it's serving you well because, you know, I think for all the content there is, you know, content is king, the content farm. For all the content there is out there, there's very little like this, and I do my best to keep pumping it out, to keep it producing. To keep it going, to keep adding to that length. So, thank you very much for your support, and hey, don't feel too down. It's happening pretty much everywhere. You just gotta find the traces of lucidity where you can, and be thankful that some people are doing some things right. Next. Sorry for the long passage, but I need some advice. I live in Australia, and despite living in one of the most isolated cities on the planet, my streets are infected with the taint of depravity. It seems half the people here are on some hard drugs, and the law just hands out slaps on the wrist. This isn't helped by the Safe Schools movement, who try at every turn to push sodomy, gender chaos, and other dysfunctions in the classroom. They constantly hold demonstrations in the central business district despite very little opposition. I even know one of the key instigators of the demonstrations. Get this, he's a gay Jew with a hyphenated name. Well, that's very progressive of him to have a hyphenated name. I see the sea of colored hair and rainbow flags and I want to scream. Should I create some sort of counter-demonstration? Entirely peaceful, mind you. Or not risk it, as I have no guarantee of freedom of speech in my country. Just want to know if you think it's worth the risk. God bless and keep it up. Well, work in the shadows that they're, work in the blind spots, rather, that they have in their world. I'm sure that you could find some pretty switched on people. I know I have a lot of Australian listeners, and they are on they are woke, for lack of a better term. They're pretty switched on. So speak out amongst friends, find out where you really stand with them, and start sorting it out. Find like-minded people, and you'll start feeling a lot better. LOCF, I remember feeling an article about the rise of secularism, and one of the reasons cited is the availability of information and different opinions through the internet. Then I then recalled the connection my grade school history books made about the Protestant Reformation, the rise of the middle class, and the development of modern sciences and the Industrial Revolution through the printing press and increased literacy in the West. People have become more and more atomized and hyper-individualistic. Just a few years ago, I was stuck in a room full of teenagers, and there was a giant contrast with how, when I was a teenager, there would be conversations going on, more noise, but then my recent experience with teenagers was eerily quiet as they all stared into their phones. Was spreading literacy a mistake? I recall you mentioned Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. Yeah, that was way back in the day. Like, a whole 2 years ago. And it seemed like he addressed the issue of the sustainability of a society that fetishizes technology and having increased dependency on it. Have you changed your opinions about Ted Kaczynski's thoughts since the last time you mentioned him? What's your whole take on the state of society as it relates to increasing availability of information? Well, you have the availability of information with minds incapable of comprehending it. And I think that's where the real problem comes in. And that, combined with the fact that we refuse to have a standardized behavior. We refuse to say, look, you read all this stuff, this is great. It's great that we learn more things, we build new things, but you have to put God first. And we don't do that. We're just like, oh, just do whatever you want, believe whatever you want. It's just a matter of taste. And this is what you get. And like you said, being around the group of teenagers, they all have screens. That hyper-individualism is exacerbated by everybody having their own screen that they can control. Because for all the problems that TV has caused, back when it was a thing that was in every home, it was like you get one TV and the whole family was on that. All right, so as dysfunctional as the culture of television helped create, as dysfunctional as that was, it still created a common experience. Now, I'm not saying that's all a good thing. Like I talked about, like there are people who are like, oh, I had a polyamory phase, and that becomes a shared experience. It's a very perverse one, but that cuts down on some of the hyper individualism that you're talking about here. Which again, I don't think individualism is an inherently bad thing either, but you can't have people just making up their own rules as they go along about shit. I mean, there's law. You can't have everybody following different laws, or you're going to have complete chaos. But we know what the law is. It applies to everybody. We know what it is. We follow it, and it doesn't change. It's ridiculous. It's really dumb to call it religion because religion has the connotation of option. Oh, you have a choice? No. But in a way you do. You either follow the law or you don't, which is why we need to call any sort of religious foundation, any sort of biblical foundation, the law. The law. The law. That's what it is. But Ted Kaczynski was right about a lot of things. And what influenced me the most about him was his very precise analysis of the leftist mindset. It's the most dead-on assessment of leftism and those who adopt its, what all it encompasses I've ever seen. Vice. Why, from Vice.com, why are all these gigs taking Grindr photos at Holocaust Memorial? Their depravity knows no bounds. Nothing much else to say. Stay safe, God bless, and have a great Hanukkah, Internet Rabbi Filth. What did I tell you about homosexuals not caring one iota about death? This is why it's stupid to say, like, oh, we'll protect you from Muslims. They don't give a fuck. They're already dead. They don't fear death because it's already happened to them. Again, what they fear is judgment. What they fear is people calling them what they are. Which is why I don't care what Vice says. That's why they're taking photos at Holocaust memorials. Because they're like, oh, isn't this kitschy and funny? I'm at the Holocaust. That's what they're doing. Again, they've already died. It doesn't faze them. Judgment. That's what gets them. Hey, Common Epileptic Filth, do you play that dank AF game Age of Empires? I do not. Also, do you know any good Vaporwave albums and artists? Contrast 3, buddy. Or O3. See, I don't even know what I called my own little project that I had anymore. Anyways, I hope you keep Christ in mind this Christmas instead of consumers garbage that so many people do. Have a good one, CF. Yeah, with regard to the consumerist stuff, I've become kind of a Grinch. Like, I really don't like Christmas as much as I used to, like, this whole time of year. And that's probably because of it. Because, like, the consumer crap, it's just, the more I see stuff for what it is, the more I see other stuff for what it is, even just inoffensive. You watched my grocery store video, you know what I think about it. But have a good one, CF, and you as well. But no, I didn't play that game. I know of any good Vaporwave albums and artists. I don't know, just the craziest thing is that the most memorable stuff I found, which I know is ironic considering I can't remember the names of the artists, just go on Bandcamp and type in the tags. You find some really impressive stuff made by, talented people that nobody has any idea exist. And then finally, hola, Shlomo Eckstein Villalobos Zuckerberg, merchant of anti-white propaganda and defeatist stickers. I'm the disgruntled Arkansas from episode 115. There's a city near me named Pine Bluff. It has a population of about 49,000, which is in rapid decline. The population is now about 65% black and 30% white. In the 70s, I believe it was 70% white and 30-ish% black. Also, the population was much larger, nearing 80,000. The place is a criminal hellhole, disproportionately only Detroit is worse. Do a quick Google search of Pine Bluff crime to verify this. Niggerification took its toll, but the whites economically imploded the city and left California tier sales and property taxes for good schools and roads before they bailed. Oh, like they always do. They vote in shitty policies and then they go to some other place they haven't ruined yet and do the same thing over and over again. Which is why I say, flood the cities with Somalians. Make it so that they have no place left to go. And then we could start getting shit done. Anyways, there is a small white enclave around the hospital and south side of the city that is mostly composed of doctors, lawyers, and government employees. Bourgeoisie, more on swivels, essentially. There's a country club in that part of town. My Filipino master race friend worked there over the summer on the kitchen staff. I was regaled with wondrous tales of bourgeoisie white culture. 2 members went Greco-Roman at a 4th of July event. Oh no. Some 40-something white witch tried to seduce my Pinoy buddy. Middle-aged potbelly golfers would walk into the restaurant of the club reeking of booze and body odor, and the head chef possessed a southern accent with a gay lisp, aka the most fucking annoying voice ever. I was reminded of all that by you mentioning Anthony Bourdain's story of a cook defiling a bride in an alleyway. It seemed fitting I tell you what little I know via second-hand accounts. Maybe the country club is the Anglo equivalent of the Greek gymnasium and Roman bathhouse. 2 members of the fucking country club go Greco-Roman. That is sick. But that's a great way of saying it. That is really funny. I'm glad to have seen this channel come this far in 2 years. Keep up the good work, CF. Stay neg and God bless. And thank you for sticking around as long as you have. That really means a lot to me. It's hilarious hearing people talk about how much Africa sucks and how much everywhere else sucks other than Europe and America and Australia when white culture, as you have witnessed, has some serious problems and it borders on toxic. In fact, it crosses that threshold. It is fucking toxic. And nobody's calling attention to it, except for people like you and me. So let's keep calling attention to it. Let's keep speaking truth to those who need to hear it. Tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Tell them what they need to know, not what they want to hear. And with that being said, let's call it an episode. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you all. Ignore sodomite orders.